Welcome to Student Connections, where students connect with their community.
Hello and welcome to Student Connections here on M6, your hometown station. I'm your host, Michelle Nowicki, and with me here today is Mr. Kirk Smith from the Marysville High School. Nice to have you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you for having me in.
All right, so tell me, how long have you been teaching the Communication Arts program at Marysville High School?
This is my 15th year in communication arts. I've been teaching for a total of 31 years, but first 15 were some of the other business classes, and then some career programs, things like that, and then Comm Arts.
All right, so what exactly does the Comm Arts program include?
Well, basically, we have 4 classes, and it's doing television production. That means that we use our television resources, cameras and script writing and editing skills to try to reinforce our students' skill level, whether it be in language, trying to beef up their vocabulary a little bit, their oral speaking skills, their writing skills. Also, we use it for some of our history projects to try to get that going. Creativity, time management, lots of neat things.
All right, so speaking of the students, what do you think their favorite project would be?
Wow, that's a good question. I think a lot of them like to do the promotions, the little promos we call them. We've had some really good ones. An event coming up right now, we're getting close to the Pink Out game, and Ryan Bennett, one of our veteran students, put a nice little promo together. A lot of fast cuts, fast music, a little bit of filtering on it, and you know, it's fun, it's creative, and it's a good way to get the message out to the community about whatever event is coming up.
Great. All right. So you said you had 4 Comm Arts classes. So about how many students do you average a year?
We have about 115 students each semester in communication arts. There's usually a little waiting list, which is a good thing. Some of our students find out that they really like the class, and okay, this might be a career interest or something to look into. Some students find out it's kind of a creative class. We don't sit in straight rows, as you know, and read a book. We're up and doing things. We're moving across the hall from the classroom into the studio. Some people love being in front of the camera, like you're doing today. Some people like directing, and some like the creative side of editing over in the classroom. So there's a little something for everybody.
So you mentioned filming the Pink Out game. What other kind of events do you film?
That's a great question. We do some evening shoots, a lot of fun evening shoots. There's band and choir concerts. We do elementary plays. Some of the plays are some copyright material, so we can't always publish that, but they can get an archived copy. We do a lot of sports. We try to do varsity sports, get as many as we can in the fall and the winter. Spring gets a little challenging. Michigan's known to have a lot of rain in the spring, so we get all of our cameras. It takes a couple hours to set up a shoot, and then the rain comes rolling in, and that's not good for our cameras. So we're a little limited in the spring. Probably one of our biggest activities, of course, is graduation each year. That was pretty fun this past year. We actually streamed it live, and it went all over the world at the exact same time it was being done in the gym. And we had a family that had a graduate that was in the military. So Dad got to watch the graduation halfway around the world and see his son graduate. So that's kind of rewarding.
Awesome. So how often do you guys update the equipment that you use for Comm Arts?
Well, budgeting, like every area of school, is always tough. We try to update as often as we can. Our equipment, some of the cameras we've had since the old high school. They're starting to get 6, 7, 8 years old now. Our computers are all 5 years old. They got brand new computers when we came into the new high school. And as most people know, you get a 5-year-old computer, it's starting to show its age a little bit. So we're going to be pretty close to looking at some update plans there as well. The software, continually changing. It's a challenge to stay up with it. The new specs that are required, whether it's YouTube, and we go to HD, and there's all kinds of things that are out there that we try to stay up. Sometimes we just do the best we can with what we have.
All right, so you said that you usually have about a waiting list for your classes, so I take it your class is fairly popular.
Well, I think some students find out that it's an elective and they give it a nice try and do it for a semester and say it's not exactly what they're looking for, so they go try another elective. But for most of our kids, they want to come back and do it again and again. So we do have that option. As you know, first semester they come in and they're a rookie. And then the second semester, third, fourth, fifth, we have some kids do 8 semesters. Every semester I have them from freshman to graduation. They are veteran students, Comm Arts 1 and 2. So we have a lot of kids that find it's a pretty nice niche for them and they enjoy doing it, something different, like I say, creativity. I really like the time management aspect of it. I think that's important for students to learn if they're going to college or a job, that they have 2 weeks to do a project, and you can't always just blow it off to the end and then expect to get it all done at the last minute. So it's a good learning tool for the students too.
Definitely. All right. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be right back after this short break.
My name is Caitlin. I'm 6 years old. I like to go to the beach with my cousins. When I was a baby, I was very sick. And then I got a liver transplant from an organ donor. He saved my life.
This gift of life was made possible by an organ donor. Imagine what you could make possible. Sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov.
Welcome back to Student Connections here on M6, your hometown station. We were just recently talking with Mr. Kirk Smith about the Comm Arts program. You mentioned that the students had a favorite project. What would your favorite project be?
Well, that's a good question. I like documentaries because I like history, and we've had some great documentaries over the years. Caleb Gordon and a couple other kids a few years ago did the history of Marysville, part 1 and part 2. Quite a few years ago, we did a documentary on World War II veterans from our area. We had about 8 to 10 veterans come in, and they told their story, where they went to the service, what kind of battles they were in, and the real experience of being in World War II. Then those same students, Joe Vargo and Derek Smith and Chris Baccarella, they did a follow-up. The next year they did Vietnam veterans, and the Vietnam vets were just as powerful. Very interesting projects. We've had some, just recently, the Detroit Edison implosion when they did the plant. That was a fun project. Anything we can do that's just a little out of the ordinary, it's always a fun challenge.
So speaking out of the ordinary, are there any big events that you have planned for your Comm Arts class?
Well, we've done over the last few years, we've cut back a little bit this year. We did a Stuff-A-Bus, which is helping with the food drive and clothing drive. This year we took a little step back away from that. We may bring that back in a little bit next year. For the last 6 or 7 years, we've done a Relay for Life telethon in May. That's one of our last big projects of the year. I think total we've helped with the Marysville High School Relay for Life team raise just a little less than $200,000 in the last 10 or 12 years. Our TV program, I think, has helped for about 8 years of that 10 or 12 years. And that's always a big project, a fun project to do. So those are 2 of the biggies.
All right, so you're going down to Washington, D.C. with the choir. What exactly will the Comm Arts students be doing in Washington, D.C.?
Well, it's going to be an interesting trip. We were invited with Mr. Martin, talked to the choir instructor, and he was going to take his kids. He takes them every couple of years on a trip, and I had mentioned Washington, D.C. So we ended up, we're going to take 7 kids. And the choir's we'll do a lot of things together, and then there'll be some times where our group will go a little separate from their group. We're going to visit Arlington National Cemetery, and our 7 kids will film some footage at Arlington, the changing of the guard, some things like at the Kennedy gravesite, Arlington House, some of those types of things. We're going to go down, see a lot of the monuments. We'll film at the Vietnam Wall, the World War II Memorial, some of those types of events. I believe the choir is scheduled to sing in a couple of different places, so I know Mr. Martin was working, possibly even having them perform on the steps of the Capitol, so we'll try to film some of that. So there's some other things we'll be doing, but Ford's Theater, going to see where President Lincoln was shot, and there's so much great history involved there, and great video opportunities as well.
Sounds very rewarding. So
It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. We haven't done a big trip like that, and it'll be fun to see how it turns out.
So what's your favorite part of your job?
Well, that's a good question. I think watching the creativity. Students come in and sometimes they need a little encouragement. Some come in and they want to make a 2-hour feature film the first week they're in class. They learn that there's a lot of work that goes into whether it's a television program, a documentary, some kind of short film. There's a lot of work that goes into putting a project like that together, and I love to see the creativity as they start to bring a project and it starts to get one idea builds on another, and sometimes I'll add another feature to it that they hadn't even thought about in the beginning. And when they're all done, most really good producers and editors, they have a hard time pushing themselves away and saying, that's it. They always want to keep tweaking it. Those are the kids that sometimes will be here after school, during their lunch hour. They're here during FIT doing extra editing, things like that. So that's probably the reward of seeing students that really buy in and they want to do not just a good job, but a great job.
So concerning those students that are so dedicated to the program, do you have many students that follow through and make it a career path?
We certainly do. We've been very fortunate. We have about 40 or 50 kids over the 15 years that I've been down here that have gone into television or film. We have kids that are acting in New York and Broadway, and we have students that are doing the news all over the place. Christmas break, I just ran into a former student that's working at a radio station down in Texas, and he's doing all kinds of neat things down there. We have a talent scout for America Has Talent, one of our former students. We have a student that's former student that is making PSAs, public service announcements, very creative in New York City. It's really fun to have them come back, and there's another layer of students that don't necessarily go into what we traditionally think of television broadcasting or film, but when they get to college, they use the skills that they learned here, and they might get into public relations or marketing, advertising, something like that, and it's a related field. So we like to see those kids do those types of things and come back and say, well, I learned how to do that in your class, and then learn more about it when I got to college, and it just kind of springboards from there.
All right. Well, thank you for telling us about Comm Arts. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for tuning in to Student Connections here on M6.